The Canadiens, Wild, and Oilers were looking to punch their playoff tickets, while the Wings, Rangers, Islanders, and Blue Jackets were hoping to stay alive. We have a full recap of Friday in the NHL right now on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. We are available 7 days a week wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets when you first win your first $5 bet. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. And together, we are bringing you all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL. Shuey had 5 games in the NHL last night, and 3 teams had their fate in their own hands.
And only one of those teams actually took fate and ran with it, like Nate the Great.
Would it be the Montreal Canadiens? They were taking on the Ottawa Senators in a big Canadian matchup. Montreal looking to punch their playoff ticket with a win, but it wouldn't happen. The Ottawa Senators said not today in their building with a 5-2 victory. Let's check in on both teams. We start with our local expert in Ottawa, the host of Locked On Ottawa Senators.
This one feels pretty good if you're a Sens fan. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators, and Ottawa not only avoids being swept in the season series by Montreal, but they stop their rivals from clinching a playoff spot. In what's always a very split crowd in Ottawa, the Habs fell behind 28 seconds in. It was Shane Pinto that got the party started, and he finished it too with his 20th goal of the season. Sens now 24-1-1 when Pinto finds his way onto the score sheet, and that line with Ridley Gregg and Michael Amadio was fantastic in the win. It was also great because it was their first home game since clinching a playoff spot, and they did it with a loss. It was the out-of-town scoreboard that got Ottawa its first playoff berth since 2017, but now with a 5-point cushion over the Habs in the wild card race, it looks like they're going to take on the winner of the Atlantic Division. For more on this game, check out the postcast. You can find us on Locked On Senators. We're your team every day.
And thanks to Ross Levitan, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Ottawa Senators, for that. Shu, as he mentioned, strong start for Ottawa in this one against Montreal.
You know, Friday night hockey breeds. It gives off the vibes of Friday Night Lights. And frankly, that's exactly what we got tonight in Canada's national capital, in which that the Senators, they were absolutely ready to go from the start. They started on time, and Shane Pinto was the star of the night. He scored the 2 goals, and as well as Ridley Gregg, he also had a goal and assist in this game. And Ottawa, they just had to jump from jumpstart, and you saw it early on from the first shift on how they were absolutely relentless in the forechecking as well as getting pucks on net. And I thought that the Senators did a tremendous job of not allowing the Canadiens to get into their game and get into the flow into the game, in which that a lot had to do with the stellar goaltending that the Senators have been receiving, and Linus Ullmark yet again with another stellar performance for the Senators, still making 20 saves.
And Ottawa, again, now 5 points up on Montreal for that number 1 wildcard spot. And the Sens also just 4 points back of Florida for third in the Atlantic Division. And still no Brady Tkachuk. He missed his 6th straight game. It didn't matter in this one. Obviously, disappointment on the other side. There were a lot of Canadiens fans there in Ottawa hoping to celebrate them punching their playoff ticket. It didn't happen. Let's check in with one of our other local experts, one of the co-hosts from Locked On Canadiens.
Montreal Canadiens' slow starts finally caught up with them. Ian Boisvert, Locked On Canadiens, here following the Canadiens' 5-2 loss at the hand of the Ottawa Senators on Friday night. The first and only game this year that the Ottawa Senators defeated the Montreal Canadiens, and it came at a pretty unfortunate time for Montreal. They had a chance to clinch a playoff spot with a regulation win. They instead pick up no points and got no help throughout the league as Detroit ended up beating Tampa, keeping their season alive. But look, it's the Canadiens' slow starts that once again doom them. They go down 1-0 28 seconds into the game. This is sort of what we've been seeing from them for the last few games, even though they've been winning all of them. They've won their last 6 coming into this game on Friday against the Sens. They shouldn't despair long, though. They've got Toronto on Saturday night, and looking at how the rest of the league shapes up, they still are in a position to clinch a playoff spot come Saturday night, and we'll see how they do it. We do know that Ivan Demidov won't be playing on Saturday for the Montreal Canadiens, but we anticipate he'll make his start on Monday against the Chicago Blackhawks. But look, against Ottawa, the slow start doomed them. First line finally got going a little bit, but generally speaking, Ottawa just wanted it more. The forecheck was great from the Senators from the start, and Montreal just couldn't find any sort of rhythm. But the good news and bad news, I guess, is they're right back at it again Saturday night. Stick with us at Locked On Canadiens, and we'll have you covered the rest of the way.
And thanks to Ian Boisvert for that report, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Canadiens. He could have given us a spoiler warning, though. We haven't talked about the Red Wings game yet. We still have the Red Wings game coming up, but as he mentioned, 6-game winning streak comes to an end for Montreal, but I got a big game coming up Saturday against Toronto, but they still have their feet in their hands. They've earned this position with that 6-game winning streak. They didn't get it done on Friday, but they still have a few chances to get it done. I think they're going to be okay, but a missed opportunity for sure.
They're going to be okay, but if you're Martin St. Louis, the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, you're drilling the message into the players' heads. Start on time. When the puck drops, that's when you start. Listen, it's great to be a team that has the capability of coming back from a multi-goal deficit. It's great, but when you're going to the well one too many times, it's ought to burn you at some point. And tonight, against an Ottawa team that is just buzzing offensively, and they're starting on time, and they're aggressive in terms of the forecheck, and as well as really taking it to the Canadiens, that's a no-win situation for Montreal. Even though that you got offensive contributions from Christian Dvorak and Nick Suzuki and whatnot, but the truth of the matter is that when your star forward, like Cole Caulfield says in the postgame, that we can't always come back all the time, it's not any sort of panic button, that should reverberate throughout the entire Canadiens locker room. So if you're Montreal, as it was alluded to, they play on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. They're going to need to start on time, especially against another playoff team in Toronto.
So swing and a miss for the Canadiens. How about the Minnesota Wild? They also had their fate in their own hands. A win in Calgary against the Flames would punch their playoff ticket, but this is a huge game for Calgary as well, trying to catch Minnesota for the final wildcard spot. In the end, it would be the home team with a 4-2 victory. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Flames.
The Calgary Flames just secured 2 big points against the Minnesota Wild, who they are in the playoff race for that second wild card spot. Just a great game overall for Dustin Wolf. Tough to see them give up 2 goals late in the third period, but they got the job done, and we are moving closer to clinching an unexpected playoff spot, which I think is exciting. And huge night for the fourth line, which you just love to see.
All right, thanks to Jess Belmosto, the host of Locked On Flames, for checking in there. Nice win for Calgary, obviously, not just to get it was kind of the opposite of what you were talking about with Montreal. Now, Montreal was on the road. Calgary was at home. They fed off the home crowd, but a great start for them. They started on time and carried it through for the victory.
And that was going to be key. And then also, and I think this is worthy of talking about in this particular segment, your stars were your stars in this game. Started with Mikael Backlund, who made it 1-0, and then Nazem Kadri, who was an absolute force in this game for the Calgary Flames throughout this game, in which that you got 2 huge points now. You're just 3 points behind Minnesota in the wild card race. And if you're Calgary, this is the type of game that you absolutely needed, where you needed like everyone to contribute in one way or the other. And I think that the fact that you saw what Dustin Wolf was able to do tonight shows you yet again just how important he has been in terms of this Calgary Flames late season push for the playoffs. And in conclusion, for me, I think you have got to feel really confident from knowing that you have the guys like Backlund and Kadri and Lomberg who are going to help push this team offensively into the direction where they need to go, especially if they hope to catch the Minnesota Wild in the standings.
So great win for the Flames. Missed opportunity for Minnesota, just like Montreal. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Wild.
The Wild could not win and in against the Calgary Flames, and now things get very interesting down the stretch. Hey, everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 4-2 loss for the Minnesota Wild to the Calgary Flames. Don't be fooled. This game was not nearly as close as the final score indicated. Calgary was in control from the get-go. It took a little while for the score to start piling up, but the Flames scored once in the first, 2 times in the second, and added a Ryan Lomberg goal in the third period to take a 4-0 lead. The Wild tack on Yakov Trenin and Gustav Nyquist goals, but now you basically got to win out, and you got to hope that Calgary somehow stumbles against the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. For more on the final push to the end of the regular season, make sure to follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And thanks to Seth Topal, the host of Locked On Wild. They just got Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek back from injury, and they had a huge game the other night in that big victory where they combined for 6 goals. But they were silent in this game. No points from either Kaprizov or Eriksson Ek. So that bump that they got didn't last very long in this one, and they need to get those guys back going the next game.
And they absolutely are going to have to find a way to get that spark from Jump Street, because I thought that the Flames really made sure that they stuck to their structure and their game plan and defending against the Wild, who could be really dangerous off the rush. So the thing that bothered me in this game in terms of the Wild's perspective of things is the fact that they got sloppy defensively, and especially on that Ryan Lomberg goal in the third period, where that ultimately broke the backs of the Minnesota Wild. So if you're the Minnesota Wild and you're looking ahead to Saturday night's game in Vancouver against the Canucks, you have to tighten up defensively, especially in front of your netminder, Marc-Andre Fleury, who had to come into this game after the game was already well out of hand at 4-0.
So the Canadiens and the Wild missed their opportunity. The Oilers had a chance. Surely they would take advantage against the Sharks. That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. Hey, the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll win $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes it so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a big chance to win. I know Shu's going to be betting on his Boston Celtics to try and go back-to-back in the NBA playoffs. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, Shu, again, as I mentioned, the Canadiens and the Wild had their chances. They do not take advantage. What about the Edmonton Oilers with a win at home against the San Jose Sharks? They would punch their playoff ticket, and they would not let this opportunity pass them by. They get it done with a 4-2 victory to qualify for the playoffs for a 6th straight year. We are going to check in with one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Sharks, to give us a little bit of an update on this one.
Sharks penalty kill continues to struggle. I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks, and the Sharks lose 4-2 to the Edmonton Oilers, in large part thanks to the woes of the penalty kill, giving up 2 power play goals tonight in a game that you lost by 2 goals. The Sharks did take advantage of a very injury-depleted Edmonton Oilers team as they kept it close at 5-on-5, especially during the second period. Goals from Will Smith and Henry Thrun as the Sharks youth movement continues. But Connor McDavid, he's pretty good at hockey, as he tonight had 4 assists in the Oilers win. So penalty kill continues to be the big issue for the Sharks, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like it's going to be fixable, at least until the offseason. So we'll break down this game on your next episode of Locked On Sharks.
All right, and thanks to JD Young for that report. And he's right, Connor McDavid is pretty good at hockey. 4 assists, as he mentioned. He has 7 assists in his last 2 games since returning from injury. And that's obviously huge because the Oilers continue to be banged up. They suffered a couple more injuries in this one. And right now it's all about, can they get these guys healthy for the playoffs, because Edmonton is in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And that in itself is a reason why I am a little concerned, to be frank. And the reason is because, you talk about the health of this team and where this team currently lies. I just think that that the way that this team has been trending, like you just wonder, are they the walking wounded? They did get the big win tonight. They punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I want to touch on that, and most particularly like for Evan Bouchard, who I think is going to be the key dark horse for the Edmonton Oilers, especially once they get the playoff running going, and as well as the fact that listen, I didn't like the fact that they blew a 2-0 lead. The Sharks have shown time and time again they don't give up, they don't quit, but they gotta do a better job holding on to leads, and as well as continue to produce on the power play, which they did. Evan Bouchard on his opening goal put Edmonton ahead at 1-0, which was on the power play. Which yet again, Edmonton's power play I think continues to be a dominant aspect of their success, and it definitely will continue to do so once the playoffs begin.
So the Oilers not only qualify for the playoffs, but they move 2 points back of my LA Kings for second place in the Pacific and home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Those two teams will go head-to-head on Monday. The Kings do hold the tiebreaker, which is regulation wins, so Edmonton can't finish tied. They actually have to finish ahead of the Kings, but that'll be a big head-to-head matchup coming up. But I mentioned, Shu, the injuries continue to mount for the Oilers. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl, your number one goal scorer in the NHL, he's out, and I will be shocked if he plays again the regular season. And in this game, they lost defenseman Mattias Ekholm, and forward Zach Hyman went down as well. It's something that is so impactful, and it's the one thing you really have no control over, and that's injuries. And at some point, I mean, Connor McDavid is amazing. He can't do it all. I don't know if this team is going to be able to get healthy enough in time to get into the playoffs. And we know the playoffs are a war. It's a war of attrition. It wears you down. It just looks like we'll see, but the Oilers are obviously they're mounting. The injuries are mounting, and it's not getting any better for them.
Exactly, and Eddie, on that point alone, folks, I want y'all to take into consideration the list of players who's out right now for the Oilers right now. Zach Hyman, Mattias Ekholm, who left tonight's game, by the way, with injury. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jake Wallman, Trent Frederick, Leon Draisaitl. Folks, you have an A-list of all-stars who are injured. I don't care what team you are across the NHL. It's awfully difficult for any team when you're missing that much firepower, and as well as key contributing players on your team for y'all to be as successful as the Edmonton Oilers have been. So it is concerning. And I think right now the number one priority has got to be get healthy for the playoffs.
And we'll see if that's possible or not. Playing meaningful games down the stretch for them as well. They're in the playoffs again, but they'd like to get home ice, but we'll see. We had the spoiler from Ian Boisvert. He let the cat out of the bag, but the Red Wings are still alive. Now, they needed Montreal to lose, which happened, but they had to win as well. And it was a thriller in Tampa Bay where the Wings pull out a 4-3 overtime victory to keep them alive for at least one more day and shoo Marco Kasper, the hero for Detroit.
He was huge. And, it's interesting because like Kasper on the post game, he talked about how like they had a couple of tough losses, which hurt the team a lot. But Kasper coming up huge, scoring his second goal of the game at 3:22 of overtime. I thought that was absolutely the shot in the arm that the Red Wings absolutely needed. And especially you talk about the key play of the game for me was when Simon Edvinsson, he forced the Tampa Bay turnover in the neutral zone, and which led to the game-winning goal by Kasper. I thought that type of play and that type of effort is what's going to be needed for the Red Wings to continue to hold on to what is a very slim a playoff chance at this point in juncture. But tonight's win was huge for a team that had been struggling the previous two games coming into this one.
Yeah, you can't worry about the things you can't control. You just worry about the things you can. They had to win. They got it done. Marco Kasper not only gets the overtime game winner, he tied it in the third period as well. And by the way, this is against the Tampa Bay team that is not resting their guys. They are playing for something. They are trying to, maybe win the Atlantic Division, right? They're just 2 points back of Toronto, but they couldn't get 2 points to pull into a tie with the Maple Leafs. They played Andre Vasilevsky in net. They played all the big guns, Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Jake Gensel. They were all in the lineup, and Detroit was able to still get that victory. So impressive win for the Detroit Red Wings.
All right, huge.
Yeah, the New Jersey Devils, they did not impress against the Penguins. We will also have coming up our first ever edition of Plus Minus. That is next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Hey, nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute NHL showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Gametime. Gametime makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop at the event as it gets closer, and with the all-in pricing, you see the total up front. No surprises at checkout. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events. And with best views before you buy, no surprise fees, and the lowest price guaranteed, you can book with total confidence. Their lowest price guaranteed means that I never have to worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Shu, we have one final game to wrap up. It did involve a playoff team, but there were no playoff implications in this one, and that was the New Jersey Devils hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. New Jersey locked into that number 3 spot in the Metropolitan Division. They will face the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round. The Penguins have been eliminated, but it was Pittsburgh getting the 4-2 win. Not exactly an inspiring effort on home ice for the New Jersey Devils, and they had the lead in this one. They scored 15 seconds into the game. They were up 2-0, and then they allowed 4 straight goals.
You talk about an absolute cluster mess that was left at the center ice at Prudential Center in Newark. I mean, this was exactly it. And you know something, Eddie? For me, what was a telltale sign for me in this game? The Devils 0-3 in the power play, and the Penguins were 2 for 4. That's your story right there. And the game-winning goal that was scored by Crosby was on the power play. So, in addition to the Devils blowing a 2-goal lead, blowing a 2-0 lead, but also their power play and the Devils committing costly penalties didn't do themselves any favor. So a good win for the Penguins, who, despite not making the playoffs, they're still playing for pride at this point in juncture. But for the Devils, it is the kind of thing that cannot happen, where penalties is giving this team the opportunity to come back and win, and that's exactly what happened tonight.
I thought maybe the play that kind of summed up the effort for New Jersey was Evgeny Malkin scored a goal from behind the net. He just kind of tried to flip it over the skate of Jacob Markstrom, and Luke Hughes was there with his stick to keep it out, and he accidentally put it into his own net. When if he just wouldn't have moved his stick, it wouldn't have gone in. But that was kind of the night that it was for the New Jersey Devils. Sidney Crosby, by the way, a goal and an assist. He's 1 point away from 90 points on the year, and Brian Rust, career high 29th goal of the season. All right, Shu, we have some extra time, and we have a new feature between you and me. It is called Plus Minus. We're going to ask each other 5 questions. A plus means yes, a minus means no. And why don't you lead us off with the first question?
Plus Minus. Brought to you by yours truly, Shukri Wrights and Eddie Garcia here on Locked On NHL Game Night. First one coming up. I'm just going to put it on the tee, if you will. Well, in the case this is hockey. So I'm going to put it on center ice and pretend it's a shootout. So, first one. Winnipeg Jets will make a deep playoff run and silence the doubters. Plus or minus?
I'm going to go minus on that one. Now, they might do it, but I have to see it before I believe it. And we've seen this movie before, and the road is not going to be easy. Maybe they face a really hot Blues team in the first round, and then they get the winner of Avs Stars. So I got to see it before I believe it. I'm going to say minus to the Winnipeg Jets making a deep playoff run.
I'm going to go minus too, because I don't trust a team that sells me a can of goods in the regular season, but I end up with rotten tomatoes come playoff time. So for me, and as you mentioned, this gauntlet coming out of the Central and coming out of the West is going to be very difficult. And this is really a prove it Stanley Cup playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets. So for me, it's minus.
Let's keep it north of the border. Canadiens did miss their chance to clinch. The Oilers did clinch. So it looks like, though, 5 teams from Canada are going to make it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Plus or minus, a Canadian team will win the Stanley Cup this season.
I'm going to go plus. This is the year that a Canadian team to winning the Stanley Cup drought ends. No Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup since 1993, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I don't want to be reminded of that.
Unfortunately, Eddie, being the Kings fan, remembers and knows all too well about 1993. So with that being said, I'm going to go as far as to say, yes, I think a Canadian team will win the Stanley Cup. And even though I will go as far as to say right here, right now, a week before the playoffs, I'm going to predict that the Toronto Maple Leafs break the curse and win the Stanley Cup this year. You heard it, Frick. You heard it here.
Yeah, you've lost your mind. It's a minus.
Toronto Maple Leafs are winning the Stanley Cup this year.
I don't believe it. No, the too many ghosts for Toronto. The Oilers are banged up. Now, the streak continues. There will be no Canadian Stanley Cup winner this year. All right, Shu, let me ask you this. Is it time for a change in Detroit? Now, they are still alive as we record this, but looks like it's going to be another season of no playoff hockey under Steve Yzerman, the beloved Steve Yzerman, Stevie Y. It would be 6 straight seasons with no playoffs. Plus or minus, is it time to hit eject on the Yzer plan?
Minus. You don't give up, especially when you have the talent in Detroit. Now, the problem isn't talent. The problem was, in my opinion, the coaching this year. For some reason, the players did not respond to the Derek Lalonde at all this season, and they replaced him with obviously Todd McClellan. I think that the Yzerman plan is working. I think that they just need to make a couple of tweaks during the offseason, which I think that they will, and they will make the playoffs next season. So I think minus. You don't move on from the Yzer plan.
I'll say minus as well, but patience is wearing thin. I think he gets another season, a full season with Tom McClellan because they were a much better team at that point. All right, you're up again. I actually did ask 2 questions in a row. It's your turn now.
Absolutely. This one is going to ring a lot of ears, if you will. Keeping the Toronto Maple Leafs theme for this one. Austin Matthews will one day surpass Alex Ovechkin for the all-time NHL goal-scoring record. Plus or minus?
I know why you're asking this, because he does have a career goals per game average actually higher than Ovechkin. But I'm saying minus on this one. Ovechkin's durability and consistency is second to none. Austin Matthews has the talent, but I don't think he has the durability. He's already had injury issues throughout his career. So it's not based on his talent. It's based on his durability. I'm going to say minus to Austin Matthews eventually passing Alex Ovechkin one day.
I'm going to go minus as well for that very reason. I think durability is a major, major component in all of this in terms of what Ovechkin just accomplished, setting the new NHL all-time goal-scoring record. He only missed, 35 games in 20 years? That's unheard of. So for Austin Matthews, for him to break the all-time record, he's going to need that level of durability. And I'm not saying that Austin Matthews is a soft player. He's not. But what I am saying, that level of durability in a very physically demanding NHL, I think is very difficult to pull off, especially consistently.
All right, you're up again. Ask me another question.
This one. I'm going to piss off a particular fan base with this question.
Are you?
Is it time to clean house with the New York Rangers, plus or minus?
Well, if you say minus, you'll upset them. But I'm saying plus, plus, plus. Are you kidding me? It is definitely time for Peter Laviolette to go. I will be shocked if he's not fired the day after the season comes to an end. He completely lost the room there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Drury is on his way out as well. Look, I'll be honest, I'm not so much into the situation in New York as far as what he's done to build this team up. They did win the President's Trophy last year, so it's not like the talent. There's no talent there, but the coach definitely has to go. That's the first step. If they want to completely clean house, I wouldn't be surprised by it either, but this is a definite plus.
I'm going to go plus as well, and the reasons are very simple. One, when was the last time that a team that won the President's Trophy missed the playoffs entirely the very next season? I'll wait. The Rangers, in their history, they did it once before. 1991, 1992, they won the President's Trophy. The very next season, they missed the playoffs. This time around, same thing. It's very likely to happen. And I just think that between Peter Laviolette and as well as Chris Drury and how he handled the season, I think they both got to go. And I think that James Dolan is going to clean house once the season concludes for the New York Rangers.
All right. How about this one? Nikita Kucherov didn't have any points tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but he's got his 116 points on the year. He's likely going to win the Art Ross Trophy because Nathan McKinnon isn't going to play any more games, apparently. But nobody is talking about him for the Hart Trophy. Plus or minus, Nikita Kucherov should be a Hart Trophy finalist.
Oh, plus, absolutely. I think that for him to still produce at such a high level offensively, considering that you lost Steven Stamkos last offseason to free agency, and he's had to carry, in my opinion, a bigger load. Yes, they did add Jake Gunsel as well in free agency. I think that Kucherov has to be a finalist for the Hart Trophy. There's no question in my mind. So plus. Let's go.
All right, Shu, we got one more. Give me one more question. What do you got?
Last question as it pertains to the Boston Bruins. The next captain of the Boston Bruins will be David Pastrnak. Plus or minus?
That's an easy plus. He is the organization at this point. He had an incredible season. They're going to build around him. He's the face of the franchise. He's signed for 4 more years. I'm not even sure who the other choice would be. Maybe Charlie McAvoy. It's your team, but I'm saying plus David Pastrnak will wear the C for the Boston Bruins next season.
I have to agree with you as well. I do think that if they're going to keep it within the organization, within the place I've been there, like for the longest of time, it's got to be Pastrnak. Yes, he is signed for I think another 5 or 6 more years after this one. So I do believe that, considering that how the season has gone for the Bruins and the fact that he has accounted for almost half of the Bruins offensive output this season, and that he's still elevated his play during this future stretch of Bruins hockey this season, absolutely, he's got to be the captain next season, in my opinion. Plus.
All right, as we sign off, real quick, 3 stars of the night. I'm going with Shane Pinto, 2 goals, my number 3 star. Connor McDavid, 4 assists is my number 2 star. And the number 1 star for me tonight, Marco Kaspar, 2 goals, game tying and overtime game winner for the Detroit Red Wings. That will do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. You got a taste of some of the local experts on this show. Make sure you check out the Locked On shows of your favorite NHL team to keep you updated on your team every day. I'm Eddie Garcia. He is Shukri Wrights. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.